Hi everyone, I'm recording Rissa and you're watching my top 10 NBA transactions for 2025. This video is going to go over what I think are the most important of the transactions that are happening in this postseason. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or even a subscribe. I try to make videos as often as I can. I just get a little busy sometimes. But yeah, so here goes nothing. If you like this video again, let me know in the comments, okay? So first off, we're going to talk about how the Bucks cut Damian Lillard. And we know basically that, he's 34 and he tore his ACL. Not a great, maybe they're not seeing it as a good investment, but even when he's healthy, he's a great player. So, that could come back to bite them in the butt. But they used that space to sign Miles Turner, who was fresh off a finals run with the Pacers, and he got a 4-year, $107 million deal. But word on the street is that Giannis is not happy with this trade. So there could be some locker room tensions, but I think if they start winning, the tensions won't matter, I definitely don't know too much about the Bucks, but I'm hoping that this trade doesn't screw them. Next up, the Grizzlies. So they signed Jaren Jackson Jr. to a 5-year, $240 million contract, right? And this is a pretty great contract, but right after signing this deal, unfortunately, Jackson had a turf toe injury in his right foot and has undergone surgery. So, I'm hoping they're going to do a 12-week reevaluation of his, surgery. But in the meantime, I know they're hoping and praying that he recovers super quickly because that's a pretty big investment to make. But he is also a 25-year-old two-time NBA All-Star, which is pretty impressive, and the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year. So, it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. This injury will probably be a small setback, but if he can recover, there's no reason why they won't be able to use him to the best of their abilities, So the team needs to be able to play without him potentially, just in case they don't see a recovery path that is as quick. And I'll talk about that as well with the Celtics, because it's not as relevant for the Celtics, but it could be. But yeah. So let's move on to number 3. If you guys have any comments about this, let me know. There's apparently potentially on-court chemistry with Ja Morant. We don't really know how that's going to play out yet. But you want to say something?
Sorry, I was trying to figure out which trade you were talking about with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and them, or?
No, the one I was just talking about?
Yeah.
I was talking about Jaren Jackson Jr.
I mean, they've been playing together for 5+ years.
Sure.
So their chemistry is fine. It's just more him being healthy, like you were talking about. Getting the surgery is slightly concerning, as people were wondering if he was going to get the full max because he hasn't been as healthy as you might want somebody to be.
Yeah.
But his chemistry with Ja Morant is
perfect.
Yeah, top notch. They're doing fine in that regard.
Well, I guess the Grizzlies are going to be potentially in a good spot then.
If they can be healthy.
Yeah, if he can recover in time, that might be a great spot for him. Next up, we've got the Clippers signing Brook Lopez. All right, Brook Lopez is 37, which is pretty... I don't know anything about basketball in the age range, but he's on the upper end, But he's averaged a pretty decent, 13 points per game, which isn't bad, across 80 games last season with the Bucks. And he's one of the big men who can stretch the floor. He's shooting from 37% from the deep with about 4.7 attempts per game. So that means that he's doing pretty well. I don't really subscribe to the idea of bigger people not being able to do certain things, but I do understand in basketball there are just certain things that you don't see as often. So this could potentially be a good fit for the Clippers. This is going to be a good boost of rim protection at the backup center position. And, he's got a pretty good 3-point shooting game. So hopefully his opponents can't handle that. And, that puts the Clippers in a good position. I'm just a little concerned about like his age, and at 37, he's got the potential for injuries that could limit his consistent playing abilities, but that doesn't mean that it's a wash, I feel like it just means that they should really know who they're investing in, but I don't think it's a bad investment personally. I guess this is a good time to mention that they also re-signed James Harden, which is pretty good news. It's nice to see someone stay with the team that they like. But yeah, all right, let's jump into the Celtics. Okay, so first we're going to start off with Boston trading Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers. They sent him to Portland in exchange for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks. Holiday had about 3 years and $72 million, not years, remaining on his contract. So Boston was able to step away from that contract, and they were on a luxury tax, trying to avoid the luxury tax, I guess. They've got but they've been spending money. So I guess this was their chance to try to trim the fat, so to speak. They traded Kristaps Porzingis, what a mouthful. Kristaps Porzingis to Atlanta. I'm not going to try to say that again. You know who I'm talking about. And Boston's going to get George Niang on an 8.2 expiring deal and another second rounder. Porzingis carried a $30.7 million salary. So when Boston let go of him, that took them about $4.5 million beneath a second apron and saved them about $180 million in the future luxury tax penalties. So it's all about the money for them. Clearly.
Also about keeping Derek White too. Once Jason Tatum got injured, it kind of became 2 of those 3 players had to go.
Yeah.
Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum can't go anywhere, but
yeah, they need Derek White.
Yeah. They prioritized Derek White over Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, which definitely makes sense. I don't know. Porzingis especially has been very injured throughout his time with the Celtics. I feel like the Drew Holiday one hurt a little bit more. Do
you think that they would probably do anything with Jaylen Brown?
Hopefully not. And that's the hope, I think, of most Celtics fans, is that these 2 trades happened so that they could keep the trio of Tatum, Brown, and White together. Yeah.
Here's hoping, And then let's jump into a quick side note about just how I think the team is going to have to work around Jason Tatum tearing his ACL. That's going to be pretty tough. He's their star player. They do have a good chemistry without him in teamwork, but their game plan relies so heavily on his skills. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they adapt, especially now that they don't have Porzingis and they don't have Drew Holiday. That's a whole new team chemistry that they're going to have to work on, and a whole new game plan that they're going to have to come up with. So we'll see how that plays out for them. They were the champs. We hope to see them be the champs again, but it's going to definitely take a lot of adapting, and we'll see how it plays out. Okay, so the Pistons acquired Duncan Robinson from Miami Heat via a 3-year, $48 million sign and trade. Detroit is getting a pretty good deal. Robinson is one of the league's best spot-up shooters. He hits 193 threes last season and has career marks near 39% from the deep. So with that, along with Cade Cunningham and Jalen Duren, I think that could be a pretty deadly combo. The Pistons are already, I think, a pretty decent team, but he's 6'7", and he's got a pretty big wingspan. That's definitely going to help them out. He's been with the Miami Heat for 7 seasons, but maybe now is his time to shine with the Pistons. I'm not really sure if it's going to be a perfect fit, but gives Detroit a lot of financial flexibility, and I think it was the best thing for them with the Malik Beasley situation. He's had a little bit of legal troubles, so Robinson may be helping to fill that shooting void, But if Beasley returns, then, we'll see what role Robinson plays exactly.
I mean, yeah, in that scenario specifically, it's tough because the gambler who's under federal investigation is a much better defender.
Oh, true, yeah.
So you damn near would have wished that Malik Beasley wouldn't have done that to himself.
Yeah.
Now you got a worse defender at similar price.
Yeah.
Even more, I'm pretty sure they were trying to pay him $42 million.
Yeah.
And they paid Duncan $48.
Yeah. That's a pretty, steep cost, but hopefully it works out for them, and hopefully it works out for Malik Beasley as well. Speaking of him and his legal woes, Okay, y'all. So now we have the Knicks, who've officially added veteran guard Jordan Clarkson on a veterans minimum deal, which is about $3.6 million following his buyout with Utah. So Clarkson is a 2021 Sixth Man of the Year. He averaged 16.2 points per game last season, and he's still a pretty potent instant offense option. They needed a good bench scoring and shot creation kind of player behind Jalen Brunson, especially in late game situations. So this could really help them. And this veteran minimum deal keeps the Knicks about $3.5 million under the second luxury tax apron, giving them a little bit more flexibility for other moves, So, you just got to check with Clarkson because he only shot 40.8% overall and 36.2% from 3 last season. And it was in limited games because he had a bunch of foot issues. So health and how he recovers and just stays healthy is going to be pretty important, just because he wasn't able to perform to the best of his abilities last season because of injuries. So you don't want to bring on another injured player for another season, or injury prone player. But additionally, they got rid of Tom Thibodeau, which we all knew, but they got a new coach finally, Mike Brown, and he is a 2-time NBA Coach of the Year from 2009 and 2023, with over 750 regular season wins and a 455-304 record. Not bad at all. He's known for coaching the Cavaliers, and he even led LeBron to the 2007 finals. So he knows what he's doing. And he ended the Kings' 16-year playoff drought in 2023, which is super important, just because he helped end that drought. 16 years is no joke. So they're hoping that he's gonna stabilize the team and help them be more adaptable. Tom Thibodeau was heavy on starter usage. People think that this new coach is gonna rotate bench minutes more aggressively. So we'll see if that actually happens. He does have a proven track record with developing young talent, so we'll see how that goes. The Knicks, I don't think they did that bad this year. I was surprised when they fired Tom Thibodeau, but I also feel like I'm not his biggest fan, so I didn't really care. But yeah, that's just a little bit about what the Knicks are going through. Let's get into the Hawks. So the Hawks have been making some pretty interesting moves. The first of which that we're going to talk about is acquiring Nickeil Alexander-Walker. They locked him down in a 4-year, $62 million contract. So that's pretty good. They gave up their 27 second round pick, for that, but that's okay. He averages about 9.4 points per game. And he's played all 82 games in the last 2 seasons. You don't see that a lot, or not a lot, but you see a fair amount, I guess, but you don't get it hyped up enough. That's great that he shows up. That shows extreme consistency, lack of injury proneness. He's, the type of dude that shows up to work every day. That's pretty nice, He's a solid shooter and defender at 26 years old. He's pretty, he might as well be in his prime. And let's look at who else they traded, or who else they acquired. My bad. Oh, they acquired Luke Kennard. And they signed him to a 1-year, $11 million deal. He's got about 43 to 46% three-point accuracy, which makes him a pretty sharp shooter in the NBA. He's going to give them a great shooting skills and backcourt depth. And this is pretty much a high-reward, low-risk sign for the Hawks. Clint Capella, he departed the Hawks with a sign and trade, joining the Rockets in a 3-year, $21.5 million deal. This is a lot of money that I keep throwing around. I'm in the wrong career. I need to be a man in the NBA, for real. Even the ones that aren't, that great, they're still making money. So Capella's going to be leaving with a solid contract in Houston. They seem to trust Okongwu. Am I saying that right? Yeah, Okongwu. So hopefully he can hold it down. They're trying to build around Trae Young with shooters, defenders, and a young front court talent for hopefully a deeper playoff run. We'll see if that works out for them. Fingers crossed. You never know. Also, side note, still on the Hawks, they did trade Derek Queen for the Pelicans' unprotected first-round pick. And with next year's class, that looks pretty good. Hopefully they can get like a top 5 pick or something like that. They're really hoping that, again, they're going to build up this team with a bunch of new, young, great players. Hopefully they can do that. Okay, now we're going to talk about the Houston Rockets acquiring Dorian Finney-Smith on a 4-year, $53 million deal. And this allows them to revamp their roster featuring Kevin Durant, Clint Capella, and they have veterans like Fred VanVleet and Jabari Smith Jr. returning. So Dorian Finney-Smith is pretty much one of the league's top wing defenders and has knocked down threes at a 40 to 41% clip last season, which is his career best efficiency. He's 32, so he's pretty mature. He's going to complement the stars like Kevin Durant and Amen Thompson, and really give Houston a strong defensive identity. This is a 4-year contract, so at $53 million, it's not going to trigger the first or second apron, so it's not breaking the bank for them. Very good for the Rockets. We'll see how far Houston gets this year, but they are definitely trying to create a better roster, a more cohesive roster, it seems. So wishing them luck as well. Okay, so we're going to talk about the Nuggets trading Michael Porter Jr. to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for forward Cam Johnson and an unprotected 2032 first-round draft pick. Is that typical, like, to go out that far?
I mean, I think they did it because Cam Johnson plays better defense and is making less money.
True.
So he gave him more financial flexibility and also like ability to play better team defense on the court. Okay,
that makes sense. Porter Jr., they're saying, word on the street is that his performance is a little bit inconsistent, especially in high-pressure playoff scenarios, and that's not really what you want to see. But You're trying to build their roster around Jokic, and so I guess this, allows them to acquire like a more reliable and versatile forward from Cam Johnson. We don't know how well it's going to go yet, but they're trying. And he had a pretty good season with the Nets, averaging about 18.8 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 3.4 assists per game. So he's definitely a player who plays. You know what I mean? So that's just potentially a good move for them, actually. Here's to them. I don't really know too much about this trade, but I'm hoping it works out for them. I feel like I've been saying that about everyone, but when you're playing around with money like this, you always kind of hope it works out, But yeah. Last but not least, we're going to talk about Desmond Bane acquiring, or not acquiring, the Orlando Magic acquiring Desmond Bane from the Memphis Grizzlies. The Magic sent Cole Anthony and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and a substantial number of future draft picks, including 4 unprotected first-round selections and a 2029 pick swap to Memphis. Desmond Bane is 6'5", a guard forward, and he's definitely doing pretty well. Last season, he averaged 19.2 points, 6.1 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game. He's definitely going to help them get that scoring boost and perimeter shooting that they need, and maybe address like the Magic's like issues with just like getting good offensive moves going, So we're hoping, or the Magic's hoping, that Bane is going to work well with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Jalen Suggs. Because maybe if they can get a cohesive team like that, they can make it deep into the playoffs. That's what they're thinking. So that was the last trade I had. They're wondering if Orlando overpaid for this, but if they make it into the playoffs and they make it deep into the playoffs, then it'll be worth every cent. All right, everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you like this video. If you have any comments, please leave them down below. I love talking about basketball. I hope that you guys learned something. Let me know if you like this video. I love you all. Thank you so much. Bye.